Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this live cast. Today, we will be talking about Facebook groups and Facebook Lives in particular. And I have the pleasure of actually interviewing today Laurent and Andrew. And both of them have been avid Facebook livers, if I may call it like that. And both of them have their own Facebook groups. And Andrew has also been quite active doing lives in our Facebook group, which is this one. And I can't wait to hear more about you and what motivated you to actually start doing Facebook Lives. So Laurent, would you like to start first?
All right. So hello, everyone. So I'm Laurent. Yes, I'm a mindset coach, and I help people to find new perspective and to find new perspective for them to be able to lift, in fact, the fog, which is blurring their vision. And this way, they are able to reach their dreams or reach their next level of success, or maybe for some of them, the life they truly want. As you mentioned, Rina, yes, I'm using Facebook. I'm using Facebook Live or even recorded version, and for a very specific reason, for the connection, because you can post as many things that you want. When people see you, realize that, yeah, you're a human being. You're not somebody just doing something hidden somewhere that nobody knows. Here you can create something which is very, very important, which is trust and a relationship. And it's pretty difficult to find that now in the world that we are living in. And thank God, with all videos and even live, we can do it. We can do it. Thank you.
Excellent, Andrew. You're muted, Andrew. Yes.
So yes, we're playing with the technology, which is, I guess, where Facebook Lives kind of come in. I'm Andrew, and my group is called Unleash Your Power, which is basically a knowledge adventure group. And what that is tapping into one's wisdom, one's inner resources that we may not be aware of, that we might be blocked, scared, stuck, something, and then identifying that and then applying it to the next steps of one's life to basically, live much more fulfilled, much more, just much more really, because I think all of us have an amazing capacity to really enjoy life here, and despite difficult times, but we don't always know it. So I fell into coaching. Coaching transformed my life, which is one of the reasons I got into it. And like what Laurent said, it's a case of, we just, building relationships, because after all, I mean, a lot of people want to do things because they want to make money, or they want to buy things, or they want to do things, or whatever. But ultimately, it's about relationships and people. I mean, even if you think about business, without people, there's no business. There's no relationship. There's no good business. And many of us have gone through different types of journeys on this group here. Rina herself, you've done plenty of things within that realm, and Laurent too, and also myself. And there's so many different perspectives, but there seems to be one theme that runs through one of the things about the realm of livelihood. Is some people, the running theme is that it has to be cutthroat, or it has to be uber competitive, or it has to be like step on other people to get where you want to go. And I know from my own personal experience, that is not true. You can actually do amazingly good work. You can do amazingly good things by being nice, by being an authentic person, by being real and being yourself and bringing yourself to the table. But sometimes it gets confusing and muddled. So I kind of got into lives and doing things like that, partly because I prefer live, but we happen to be in the virtual space now because of situation around the world. So we've been kind of pushed to do this, but it is amazing technology. I think if we become too dependent on it, where we start not really thinking for ourselves, that's a personal point. But I do think it's an amazing tool that will enable us to reach people more readily. And when I go live, that's who I am. I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm not trying to, dazzle. I'm not, of course I want to be clear. Sometimes I may not be clear, but I try my best. I'm trying to be just who I am and be authentic and connect with people as real as I can be. And that's me on the camera. I don't have special effects. I don't have a green backdrop. I don't have all these things. Usually I'm outdoors because that's where my energy starts to move. And that flexibility of being able to go live, of being able to use the technology that we have, such as right now, because unfortunately, sometimes technology misbehaves. My signal within my home is playing up, so I'm doing this on my phone. So that's very mobile, and I can do that quite readily, quite quickly. And that's the beauty of it, is I may not be able to connect with someone because they're in a different time zone, but I can put it up and they may stumble over it, or they may come to it later on their own time when they're ready or they're looking. And I don't have to be there. Whereas even before 2000, the new millennia, most people had a bricks and mortar business, which required footfalls, someone walking through the front door. That was their customer, their client, their partner. And that model has completely changed now, where you can literally just put yourself up there. Someone will come to you on their time around the world, even while you sleep. So for me, going live like that, live, okay, but is to just literally be real, be authentic, and build potential relationships that can hopefully go somewhere. Because as a coach, I'm looking to work with people, but ultimately kind of for people, to really enable them to step up to the next level. So that's why I got into it.
Excellent. So let's take a step back. Thank you for sharing, Andrew. I've heard a lot of things that I would like us to dive deeper, but let's start first things first. I know that Facebook allows us to go live from our personal profiles, but both of you, you're actually actively using Facebook groups for your Facebook lives. May I know why? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Go ahead, Laurent. I don't mind. It's up to you if you want to share.
Andrew, start this time.
Why groups? Well, I mean, I guess the short answer, which is what would be the practical answer, is that those are the kind of the modus operandi, the MO, the operating procedure of how the platform, Facebook, has set it up. And they are forever changing. So that would be the short answer, is that basically that's what you kind of need to do. If you were to try and run it off your personal profile, you could potentially lose your message, because you may say or do something as a business or as an operator, which they go, that breaks the rules. So having a group is you're in a confined space, which is a safe space with which then to kind of share your message and bring people in. So that's kind of the short answer. So that would be technical and practical. The other answer for me is where I kind of get more excited about, obviously, is that, as I say, your message. You get to bring potentially like-minded people. Obviously, you don't want people who are completely on the same, because you want to learn and grow. If we're all the same, nothing's changing. It's all just the same. But you don't, I see it as working together with kind of values aligned, people who want to grow, people who want to change their lives, people who are wanting to uplift the world or their community or their families or themselves to another place where maybe they haven't had the opportunity. And within a group of a particular topic or theme, they can feel safe to do that. At least that's the culture that I try to bring. Other places, administrators sometimes could be ruthlessly rigid and you can't do anything or say anything. And I tend to avoid those, because that to me it's not aligned with me. But everybody can go into these groups and you can find them based on a theme or a topic or an area that you're looking to explore. So for example, simple one, I happen to be in an outdoor adventure group where people like to travel and share their stories. Or I happen to be into a mountain biking group because I love to mountain bike, and we talk about all kinds of things of technical, what do you do when this breaks and how do you do this and all these things. It sounds very boring to someone who's not a mountain biker, but somebody who is, it's really interesting. And that would be the conversation. Whereas if you were to do that on your personal thread, people would kind of go, this isn't really a topic for me. Whereas in a group, you can open up, you can explore ideas, you can share, and then other people have the freedom, obviously without being insulting or spammy or whatever they do, is to share their views. And it's a safe space. Now, again, it's up to the culture of the group, but it's an opportunity to kind of, I guess you would say maybe even a forum, but there you get to potentially really connect with people on a level in the world, but it's probably the best you can, feeling relatively open to do so. Now, everybody's personally, they may take time to open up, but that's what it can be designed to do. And that's kind of how I use it. And that's why I use the groups, not just because of the rules, but also because of the ability to explore new things.
Excellent. Sharing, Andrew, I agree with you on many, many points. I also feel that groups really allow you to bring together like-minded people, and only those who are actually interested in that topic would join that group, whereas you can actually have as your friend anybody and everybody, and you don't want to spam them perhaps with topics that might not interest them. And I would love to hear, Laurent, from you, what has been your experience like?
Yeah, Andrew, you mentioned a lot of points which are really, really true. And one of them, it's a safe environment. I know that in my case, the group is a private group, and I don't let everybody in. I could do any video I want on my normal Facebook page, and sometimes I do. But in general, when I start talking about specific elements which are related to mindset or to development or to business or to coaching or even part of some coaching programs, I keep them in this safe environment, which is the group. And in fact, something that you say, which is very true, that everybody can come after the past my appraisal, but then if you like it, good. If you don't like it, you go somewhere else. But the group is for a specific purpose, which is the development of people. And this is very good because if you just put it online on a normal Facebook group, everybody has it. It's good, it's fine, but it's not creating this safe environment and this idea of we're own community. We're all together to help each other, and that's the idea into the group. So it's very important, and that's why I'm using Facebook, because you can have your own Facebook page, personal, that I do with my family and so on, your business page, and your group, which is with your own community, with people that you are sharing a very specific element. And that's very crucial, because otherwise, just go on YouTube, have billion people following you, and yeah, it's fine. But here it's really human size, I would say. So yeah, that's why I really like the Facebook group.
Yeah, excellent. And the technology has really advanced to such an extent that it's really just a press of a button, and then there you are, your life. You can connect Zoom and stream from Zoom right away into a Facebook page like we're doing now, where all of us can see each other. Or you can just go live in the Facebook group itself, and then, which is perfect if you're just sole speaker, let's put it that way. And I have had my own share of struggle with that. And really, I'm comfortable talking to another person, a few other people at the same time. It's really natural to me. But then those of us who are really on the edge, just because we struggle at putting ourselves out there and speaking and sharing our messages all by ourselves, how has it been for you? And are there any tips that you've picked up over time that you could share perhaps with the community?
Do you mind if I start this time, Andrew? To be honest, and you will certainly laugh about it, I'm shy. Okay, for me, it's not natural to talk to people. It's not natural to open myself like that. And I trained myself because it's something that I was not fluent. I was not comfortable. But I discovered that it's something that we can learn. It's a skill that we can improve. And I've been part to many different workshops and groups for me to learn to overcome my fear of talking, to overcome the fact that I have an accent. Yes, I have a French accent. Maybe you did not notice, but yes, there is an accent, you know. And so all of that, all of these elements, which are in fact scaring me, holding my back every single time. But no, you know what? Because more you do it, better you get. You learn how to manage the tone of your voice. You learn how to manage the tools, you know, your pod, microphone, all of that. When something is not working, how to find a solution quickly. But all of that is just skills. It's just practice. And more you do it, better you get. And believe me, not so long ago, a friend of mine sent me a video that I did 2 years ago. Oh my God. But at the same time, I'm proud because I took action. I did it. And more, and more, and more. To be able to now be with you, to share with my community, to share video, to be there. And that's precious, not only for me, but for everyone, which I can help. And that's the main idea. I cannot go on the top of a building and scream how to do it, or what to do, or how to think, or whatsoever. No, but using this kind of tool, it's a great opportunity. We just need to know how to use it, and that is with practice.
Beautiful. Congrats. I'm so glad you've overcome your fears, your resistances. And that's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful message for every one of us who is not a native speaker in the language and is trying to use a different language. And try and do that. Let's see if I one day can do this in Spanish too. That would be cool. Is there any particular reason, Laurent, why you are choosing English to spread your message, and why not French?
It's amusing because I learn coaching in English. I learned to do it in English. I'm living in London, and it's like my previous job, which was in the hospitality industry. I learned it in English, and I know that even if I had many hotel directors speaking French, every single time we were starting in French and then moving to the English because I learned to do that this way. And the same with the coaching. I did coach some people in French, but it's the same. You know, it's to get fluent with the process, to know the words. When you are doing it in one language, it's fluent, it comes easily. When you do it in French, I start thinking in English, which is really weird for me, and my wife will laugh about it. But we start thinking in English to translate it in French, which is, yeah, that creates confusion for me. But maybe, I will not say no, but maybe with time, I will be able to do it in both languages, and I hope.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Laurent. It's the same. My entire, I would say almost my entire background is or has always been professional, educational background has been in English. So I don't even know anymore many words in other languages, you know. English is just so easy. Thank you for sharing. Andrew?
Well, just to break it to you, I have an accent as well. So I'm basically born US, but globally raised. So my accent can be quite fluid in many ways, but I speak English. So I kind of guess I lucked out on that front because it's the language of commerce, I guess, if you want to call it that, or it's global anyway. But mostly the fact is, and I wasn't always bad with languages, I just had forgotten I've been very lazy, I guess, is that most people would drop into English very quickly because they think, look, to stop butchering my language, let me just speak English because we'll get along a lot better. So it'd be like, that worked out for me much easier, which made me lazy with my languages. But anyway, over here, I have an accent. So we're in the same boat. I guess, I mean, it kind of goes back to before when I used to do training and workshops live, and I had to kind of do what you would effectively call public speaking, where you get in front of people live and you do stuff. And my palms were used to sweat, and I used to get all going, oh my God, I'm going to make an ass of myself, and then this is all going to go wrong, or I'll forget what I'm supposed to say, and so on and so forth. And then after a few times of doing that, realizing that I'd survived, I'm still here, I haven't died, my heart hasn't blown up, and I'm still, life is okay, then I kind of went, well, wait a minute, I'm actually making something more of this than it really needs to be. Does that mean that I don't get nervous? Of course I do. It depends on the audience, depends on the topic. But I think, Laurent, you kind of hit the nail on the head, at least from my view, is that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. Now, I completely understand your point, Reno, where you shared before of that. To do it solo in front of a screen just doesn't feel right. It's like, that's just not who I am. I like live, I like having a conversation with someone. And I think it kind of goes, I liken always many of these things to Einstein's thing, is that imagination is much more important than knowledge. So I imagine an audience of who it is that I'm looking to share or serve on a particular topic. And the more I learn about the technologies of how I can cut corners, or I can use this, or what is better for me, or whatever, it becomes a personal kind of modality that I like, then I can run with it. Of course, the other nice thing about this is just to share a little nugget for those people who do lives and then obviously record it on a video, is now, they didn't always, but Facebook, for example, has made it easier for you to download those. So you can repurpose them. So you can put them back up onto YouTube and run your YouTube channel if you've been talking about how to do something, or there's something you want to share. So it's kind of depending on what your purpose of going into, at least for me it is like, okay, what is my intention here? Am I just here to just have a vent and moan about something I'm not liking about the state of affairs, which I don't do very often because I try to avoid politics? Or is it a case of that there's a particular group of people that I'm trying to help, particularly people who are trying to, now in a world of COVID, their job insecurity, are they looking to start their own businesses? How do you do that? So I might share a tip or something to think about that will help them go that way, or at least get them asking different questions. And then hopefully we can also continue with a follow-up connection down the road. So a tip for what I kind of do is I imagine who I'm speaking to. And then it's like having your invisible friend, your childhood invisible friend as a kid. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so who am I talking to? And so that would be, as we refer in this, what people don't know, would be kind of your avatar, or the people that you are, the people you want to work with. And one of the nice things about it, if you're starting out, is if you're really confused about or not sure who that is, like, okay, is it men, is it women, how old, what they do, and that. Think about yourself. What is it that you might struggle with that you now have answers, that you have overcome something? Because that gives you confidence. You're like, well, I did it, so I'll talk about something I know about. And that helps me get through the areas where maybe something I'm not so confident about, I'll start with something I am confident about. And when I get rolling and get practice, I'll do that. But one of the things I used to do, even for myself before I went live, the beauty of technology is that you can do a video recording, go back and watch it. You're not live. You just do it and see, okay, for example, am I wearing the wrong color? Am I wearing white on white and the wall behind me is white and my hair is white and you can't see me? Whoops, that's not really very good. Or am I positioning the camera in the wrong way, that I'm looking at the ceiling instead of at me? And so you get these little things of what works. Is it close? Is it far? And you play with this on the video. And then you keep trying. And the beauty of it is if you don't like it, you can delete it. So you just basically keep going until you go, okay, now I'm getting the hang of this. I can talk in 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, depending on what I'm doing, a workshop or something. And you just then, okay, you say, okay, like Laurent, again, hit it on the head. It's like, but either way is that you're doing it. You're taking action. And the only difference is from shifting from the video to going live is just literally a press of a button. The technique and the process is the same. And then potentially on the other side, you may have an audience. You hope you have an audience, but you just do it and you just keep doing it until you get better at it.
I was just thinking about one of my guilty pleasures, if I may call it that, is actually listening to the replays of my own podcasts. And then I, fast forward and I look at my own paths. And then I kind of like do an analysis of what did I say, what could I have said better. Often I tend to not finish my sentences because my mind is so fast, and then I skip words, and then I jump from one idea to another. And then it really helped me, to be honest, to kind of like be more mindful. Okay, you have that idea, finish that idea, that other idea can wait, but I'm definitely guilty of doing that. But I actually quite enjoy watching my own replays because it kind of like, it shows me that actually I'm not that bad. It's not as bad as I think it is. Yes, Laurent?
I would say, and I like what you said. It's not necessarily a problem, but in fact, it's something that must be done, because this way you are able to improve yourself. In fact, you just check, you see what you did good, you replicate it. What you didn't do good, you amend it to do it better next time, and so on and so on and so on. And that's the only way to progress when we think about it. If we just shoot video again and again with no feedback, no review, nothing, we don't know if the sound is good, if you speak well, if what we say interests people, if we are wearing, as you mentioned, Andrew, the right shirt, right color, on the right side of the light and stuff like this. So it's very important to review what we done and then to improve, to then make it better and keep it going, for sure. So no, it's really good to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd like to add to that, is like you mentioned something, Laurent, is that you had a friend share with you your earlier videos and how far you've come. That's a huge confidence booster. Obviously, unless of course you're still doing the same bad mistakes, but I imagine you wouldn't be, because experience, you're growing. And that's the same thing what you were saying, Rena, is that you can go back and look and go, okay, did I actually make that transition that I needed to, that I spotted? And then you go back and go, I'm still doing that. I'm still looking the wrong way, or I'm still, using a poor microphone. And the beauty of a group where you have relationships, I had someone who reached out to me and said, I really wanted to hear what you're saying, but your microphone, or it was where you were outside, it was too windy. I couldn't hear you. And they were kind enough, because we had that relationship, to reach out and tell me that. But also, if I had gone back myself, I would have recognized. But when you're live, it's a bit tricky. But when you're practicing, you kind of go, look, I know I need to pay attention to these because I've practiced this. So I think, yeah, it's just a case of this thing is a great saying, is that just imperfect action is better than no action at all. And going, I'm just not going to do it because it's just not polished. Personally, I like an unpolished speaker. I like somebody who is, obviously, it's nice to them, confident, they're informed, they know what they're talking about, they're having a bit of a laugh, maybe you can see they're nervous, you kind of feel sympathetic for them, you're like, yeah, I remember those days. But they're being themselves. Where someone who is scripted and they have it just like it's a shtick, they got it, it's like, you know what? Where are you in this? I want to connect with you as the person. So the fact that it's not perfect, the fact that it is, to me, and that's just my personal preference, it's more real, it's just certainly much more authentic. And then I have more of an attraction to want to go a next step with that relationship than I would if somebody is just a polished salesman or a polished whatever. And then I switch off. Personally, I switch off.
Perhaps this is a good place for us to talk a bit about content itself. I've watched your lives, and for instance, Laurent, I saw that you have like your 5 tips, do this, do that. And I would like to know more whether you actually how do you go about choosing your content? Do you prepare, do you script, do you define your 5 points and then you talk through them, or do you just improvise? What is your strategy? I know there is no right and wrong. It's just what works best for you.
On my side, it's I have always with me a paper and a pen, always. Which means that pretty often, yes, I have some points that I like to touch. Like yesterday with Asher, we talk about the skill process, the 5 points to overcome your fear and reach your next level of success. Yeah, that was the main part of the discussion. But after that, when, as for you, Andrew, when there is a live, when I think about something, I put a note. When I think about something, I put a note. I will not do a live again and again and again and again. Otherwise, it will be just too much. People need, and even me, time to relax, time to digest information, time to move on, time to maybe take the information, put it in place for themselves, and see something else. If you just shoot, I will be overwhelmed. So if I am overwhelmed, I can imagine the audience. No, I don't want that. So I just take notes. And then one day I say, okay, up, I take one of the post-it. I have a lot of post-it here everywhere. And then I say, okay, today I'm going to do a video with this one. Maybe it will be a 2-minute video or 15 minutes video. We will see. But yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea how it goes in general. Yeah. Andrew.
Oops, kind of very similar, because the tricky bit is that I think what we know is that there's a classic saying, and maybe everyone here has heard a variation on it, is that just because we build it doesn't mean they'll come. Just because I like it and I'm interested doesn't mean anybody else is. However, you obviously want to talk about things you know. You don't want to get up there and talk about things you don't know, because then you look like a fool. But not that I'm worried about looking like a fool. I do that very well anyway. But the fact is that I would like to share content that matters to people. So I think about my audience, and I think about the kinds of questions that seem to be a common theme that keep presenting themselves, whether it's in a one-to-one coaching session or group session, or just conversations around a topic such as, how do I start a business? Or how do I go online? I'm not techie, I'm terrified, I haven't done this before, or whatever it happens to be, or I have these great ideas, but I just don't know what to do, and people getting in their own way. I'll take these things, and then I'll kind of run on that topic, and then, like you, Laurent, I will see where it goes to a degree, because one, you don't want to overwhelm, and there are a lot of people who, for example, may have this one question saying, well, I'm a technophobe, I don't know what to do. And if you start talking about something that's 5-6 steps down the road, they're already lost. So you really have to go back and be sympathetic to the audience of who you're trying to reach out to and say, actually, this is someone who really is just trying to even find out, how do I open up an email account? Because I'm kind of yesteryear. I don't know what is a domain? I've heard of them, but I don't really know what to do about them. And then if I'm talking about, okay, now we're going to start doing massive marketing on this level, they're lost. So it really depends on my audience. So I can have a similar topic, change a group, and the next thing I know, I'll be talking about step 3 instead of step 1, or I might be talking about step 10 instead of step 5. If I don't pay attention to that, even I get myself into a muddle, because then it's like, okay, so what did I talk about? Oops. And then it's like, okay, and then you're like you with your notes. I need to scribble down my notes and then run back home and put it in my Excel spreadsheet and keep a track. And it's like, then I'm making more work for myself. And then I start feeling like this isn't really what I want to be doing. I'm out of my flow. So really, it's kind of this idea of not just the end in mind, but who is actually on that journey is kind of where I think about it.
Let's talk about bad lives. So
I can talk about that really well.
Okay, great. I mean, it's not a secret. I you know, everything I do, everything is double speed. I have impatience. I'm very, very impatient, and I've seen my share of podcast lives where, and it bothers me tremendously. When the person is not prepared. They go live and they're like, hello, oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm 10 minutes late and I just got out of bed and look at me, I'm still in my bathrobe and I'm drinking my coffee. And for 5 minutes, it's literally just that. And it's nonsense, it's no content. And to me personally, when I hear this, it's really sloppy work. because it seems to me you as a presenter, you can't be even bothered being on time for your lives, and you can't be even bothered of being prepared and sharing something that's useful. People have 30 seconds attention spans, and I have no time, nor do I care about listening how you slept last night, honestly. Because to me, yes, if you're my friend, I'll listen to it. But if you are there to share content, it's a Facebook Live, I expect content. I expect something that's gonna move the needle one way or another for me. And so what are your thoughts? Am I just being exaggerating, or what are your thoughts on that?
Who wants to start? Go ahead, Laurent.
Please, Andrew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a funny line, that one, because what's happened in the realm of kind of marketing, which some people go, oh, that word, and then they think sales, and think, but speaking is, there's a concept out there called lifestyle marketing. And the idea is that, look at me, look at how wonderful my life is, which we know on Facebook, there's often this fantastic image, but behind them, maybe the whole world is collapsing, who knows? But there's portrayal of an image of a lifestyle. And look at my lifestyle as I can work in my pajamas and I can carry online because I'm so lucky, because I'm so successful. Now, it may be true, it may not be true. And some people get this balance wrong. So it'd be fine that you're like, I'm sitting at my kitchen table and I'm running my business on my laptop. That's kind of cool. But like you said, Rena, if someone falls out of bed because they're unprepared, that's a different story. I really expect that at least someone, if they're going to organize or facilitate something, they at least have an idea what they're talking about. And I also, the other thing is that, like you, Rena, I don't really want to hear about, oh, I'm hungover, or I just went out, I couldn't sleep, and it's kind of like whatever. Now, you can spin that and say, well, despite the fact that I've had a really hard time of it for some reason, I was up all night because there was a fire next door and I couldn't sleep, but I am here anyway because I'm committed to you, and then they deliver, then that's like, oh, okay, cool. These people are basically very committed to the process. It's a different mindset. But if someone is unprepared, or they just could care less to bother to actually respect the people who have arrived, I'm like you, I'm like, I don't have time for this. My time is precious and valuable too. But at the same time, it's a case of, I'm here to hopefully connect with that person, to hopefully learn from them, hopefully share something, and again, move the needle, as you say, Rena. So yeah, I'm probably a bit more forgiving in the sense that I give people a bit of time to get going and hope they do. But at the same time, if it's obvious that they just literally, oops, I forgot, and they just are not being married together, I don't have too much patience for that. And in fact, I'm probably one of those people who will give the feedback, who will send an email and say, you know what, mate, or whatever, that really wasn't on. Okay. If I'm bothered, if it's a case I'll never come back to it again, then I just let it go. But I think it is really, really important that if people are going to bother to do it, they do it as well as they can. Again, it doesn't have to be polished, but you can see that they're committed to trying to deliver the best they can. Maybe they are nervous. Maybe they are a disorganized person. That's okay. But if they approach it from a place of authenticity, saying, look, I'm actually really here to do it. I'm just a little bit all over the place. I'm really nervous. You can see that. Usually you can see that. But you can also see the person just going, look, I just literally just realized I needed to be here, and I just turned it on, and I'm still in my pajamas and whatever, and so on. Okay, that's a different story. So yeah, Rena, I don't have a lot of patience for it, but I probably have a little bit more than you, because you're very like, no, I'm not up for that. So, but that's okay. That's fine.
That's why I watch everything double speed. And I'm so happy about my Facebook extension that I figured out there is such a thing as a Facebook extension where I can finally watch all the Facebook lives in double speed too. And yeah, I don't have the patience. And it's a good thing. I'm happy to hear that you would be sharing feedback. I did it once, that I shared feedback. You know, this whole thing of wasting my time for the first 10 minutes, it's not a good thing. But the person probably, he felt it was actually me being authentic. And I think, what is authenticity really? Is authenticity me watching you drinking coffee, or is authenticity me watching you deliver maybe a story from your personal life, but making a point and giving me something to work with? And even though you hear those people who are a bit more successful and out there and they're doing lives all the time, they keep saying be authentic, but I never see them zipping their coffees on lives. They're professional. And I think a lot of people might misunderstand what it means, authenticity. And probably it doesn't mean you have to script the whole thing, but start with the idea that you're trying to bring across, and then maybe elaborate. You know how you write a book, for instance. You start the chapter actually with the main point that you're trying to make, but then you start actually elaborating on the whole thing, so that you want to grab people's attention from the beginning. I don't have time to listen to you for 10 minutes or half an hour for that one point that you're going to make at the end. I really don't. And that's what I think people who write books have figured out really, really, really well. The key idea is always in the first chapter, if not in the title of the chapter. And then they elaborate, and then they break it down, and then they explain the whole thought, the whole progress. And what are your thoughts on this, Laurent?
You raised a lot of very, very interesting points. I will just go back quickly about people who just come saying that they're authentic in a pyjama, drinking their coffee, thinking that their day starts at 12 o'clock and finish at 3 in the afternoon. I was reading a book, and in this book they were mentioning that in any job that you do, you need to make it as a business. And if people don't have, I'm talking about for myself here, okay? If people don't have the respect to arrive on time, if people don't have the respect to arrive on a proper plantation, ready to rock, ready to do what they have to do, what they're coming from, why are you joining? You know what? If I have to do a one-man show, I prefer to do that than to have somebody totally unprepared and even not willing to be there, not willing to share. And I know that for the various live that I've done, I must admit, on my side, I always invited people that I knew they were professional, would be here on time, and have a proper speech, a proper information to share with your audience. On the other side, and here I'm talking to my audience, many people who book call with me, and every single time when you book a call with me, block 1 hour. Okay, that's official 1 hour. But on my calendar, it blocks 2 hours. Because if I consider that I can give you more, I will. If I can consider that at the end of the hour, you didn't reach where you should go, we will continue. So I will give you this time. But on the other side, if people just come because they want some kind of abracadabra and easy peasy lemon squeezy answer, it doesn't work this way. But yeah, that's the idea. You know, you're here to provide something, but it's a win-win situation. It must be. It's not on one side, and that's the beauty of it. Now, related of your question, crap, talk too much. I lost my head, lost my mind. So can you just remind me the question? I hate asking this question.
We took many questions. We talked about content creation, scripting, and choosing content. Having
yeah. So authenticity.
Yes.
Authenticity. And authenticity, yeah, a lot of people think that they are just reading a script. We talk about authenticity. And what I think is very important with the authenticity is the fact that you are not here to please, but you are here to say who you are. we cannot please 8 billion people. But if I'm able to talk to the people who are interesting of what I have to offer, I'm fine with that. I am who I am, with my accent, with my stupid joke, with sometimes just losing my word. I am who I am. I'm authentic with that. And yeah, sometimes, and more beginning of the videos, I was using script and all of that. But then when you discover that it's part of you, and in fact, as you mentioned, Andrew, you just say what you know, and then it just comes fluently. You don't really need a script, or maybe if you start using some specific words that you don't have the habit to use. But then again, with practice, it will become authentic for you, and then you will be able to share it more easily. But authenticity, yeah, if you see me in front of a Lamborghini on a picture, believe me, that's not authentic. No, that's not me. That's not who I am. And you mentioned the lifestyle, Andrew. Yeah, that's very important. And once again, it comes to the audience that you want to talk to, the audience that you want to touch. And that's really important. Do you want just to be open, be yourself? Or do you want to show something which is not necessarily you, but then you will touch some other people? It's a decision to make about that. That's what I think.
Excellent. So I guess we all agree that Facebook groups and Facebook Lives is an excellent way of sharing our knowledge, sharing our expertise, showing who we are and how we work. And that's definitely something, because all of us actually, we are coaches. And that's what clients often say. They actually want to see a person first before even scheduling the call, just to see if they're actually comfortable and if they actually like you in the first place. And so how do you actually introduce them in your Facebook Lives, the services that you provide? How do you kind of like turn around that conversation and talk business? Who would like to start?
On my side, I know that we create a relationship first. We start to know each other. And from there, we see if maybe there is something to together live, because when we go live together, it's not for us, it's for the community. So if what you do will probably or not interest my community, if it could interest my community, then yeah, I will invite you, and then you will be able to share your message through my community. And that's the idea. It's you know, the world is vast. You are in Germany at the moment, and as we mentioned before, you are in different countries. And the idea is, at this moment, we are able to touch different people. So if what you want to say will be good for my community, I bring you in. Like that, you are able to spread the word. That's the idea. But yeah, we will have a chat before.
Excellent. Any thoughts there, Andrew? We cannot hear you.
Sorry. I completely agree with Laurent that it's about relationship building and making that connection, because to be honest, it's two ways. You know, it's not just the fact that people are trying to understand you to see if there's somebody they want to collaborate or work with. It's also whether you are wanting to do it with them, whether you can serve them properly, because you may understand a topic, but there may be a dynamic that just doesn't resonate with you well, and you're going, you know what, this is actually not going to go well because it's just not me. So I couldn't serve that person effectively as much as I would want to. And if you're, you know, being partly authentic is also being ethical. And ethical would be is that rather than just say, okay, I'm going to do this for the job because I need the money, and we've all been there. But if I actually can't deliver because it's not an area of my expertise, or it's just something that I just can't really get to whatever it is this person is because of a dynamic, I will do the right thing and refer them on. Because I think, to me, that's a disservice. It's actually, to me, it's not the way to operate. And I would expect somebody to do the same. If you're thinking like you yourself may go to a healer or a therapist or a counselor, you would go in on the first time and you'd walk away going, yeah, I want a second visit. Or you walk away and go, I'm never going back again. So it's the same thing as the person delivering also has that feeling going, woof, this person is going to be really hard work, and I don't know if I'm prepared for that. Or it's, I can do this person really, really well. I can actually make it happen. So I think it's really important that it's understood that it's collaborative and it's a two-way street. The other side of it, as Laurent said, is this conversation. That's how it emerges. So building those relationships, that's where these things to come through. People start becoming more confident. They start maybe trusting you more. So then they open up more and you go, okay, now we're actually moving forward on this level. Because part of those conversations may be that they may have an issue, but they're not ready yet, even though you can see it. And then it would be like me trying to push something on somebody that they're not quite ready for is not okay. I like to work with people who may not know exactly what they want to do, but they know they want to do something. They're already self-motivated. I'm not there to convince something of somebody they don't want. That's a different style of thing that I'm not interested in. It is very different, though, if you have like your offline business, big bricks and mortar, or your website, and someone comes to you specifically saying, I want your services, and what are your prices, or what do you do? And that conversation's almost happened. They've come to it at a very different perspective. But with the reach of the internet being global, different time zones, different cultures, different scenarios, challenges maybe, then that's where giving the airtime, giving that kind of space, making those connections over a period of time, and it may happen very quickly, or it may not, it may take more time. So the fact is that, ultimately it goes back down to the original comment, I think, from the beginning, is that this is about relationships. And if there is a healthy relationship between two people, especially for coaches, then that sets it up for a positive experience, which is ultimately what we're all about. If it's a case of where there isn't going to be a positive experience because of something, then you also have the wherewithal to stop and go, you know what? I'm just not your person, or you're just not my person. And that's okay. We get all caught up and go, what do people think about? That's okay. If we don't get caught up in that, it makes it so much easier. To make the transition to the sales thing, to answer that side of the question, is, you kind of really have to go back to the person to find out for them. They have to identify and express why it is that they're there. What is their issue? So they have ownership of that. Once they have that and say, look, I'm ready to go to the next level, then there's an opening for a transition to say, okay, look, this is how I can help you. And this is what it would look like, whether it's 1 week, 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 1 year, you can transition to that. I'm not somebody who then is going to turn around and say, look, I'm going to push my services on you. It's a case of that, look, is this person ready? And then I go, okay, here's the deal. But that takes a little bit of, it's conversation, as Laurent said.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. These are very, very good points. We have a few really good questions also in the chat. So let's talk about that. First one is, when you invite a person to a Facebook Live, do you meet before to review the topic, or does that defeat the purpose of the live? Maybe I can share some of our experiences there. We do meet before with some people, but not with everybody. Like, for instance, with Laurent and Andrew, we just know each other for a while. And this topic is actually a low-hanging fruit for all of us. And because we know them, or I know them, I trust that they're going to be good speakers. And I know more or less what they will be able to share. When we are considering inviting somebody we've never met before, and we do meet with that person separately, Ildiko and I, and we share with them what is the community all about, what are the topics that we like talking about here, what are the topics that might be of interest to our community, because most people, there are many things they can talk about. Like in this particular live, we are talking about Facebook groups and Facebook Lives, but actually the other day when I was in Laurent's podcast or livecast, whichever way you want to call it, Facebook Live, we actually were talking more about entrepreneurship, not entrepreneurship. What did we talk about?
Business
personal
development.
development and business
How
development.
to go from employee to business owner.
Yes. And even then, we didn't really meet up separately. We just chatted about the topic just because we've known each other. So there is no real need. But most people that we don't know yet, it's definitely very, very, very important that you speak to them once before we ask them. We narrow down the topic, we decide, we agree on the title of the podcast. We ask them to send us a little blurb about the topic, ask them to share some information about them so that we can actually add it to the description of the event, just because these people are also not very well known in the community. And it's very, very important for us to get to certain agreements as well. And I would advise, you also kind of approach it this way, because the last thing you want is actually having somebody that you can't even talk to at all. And it definitely happened to us several times by now, where I meet somebody interesting, let's put it that way. They comment, they say something interesting on Facebook, and then I kind of go after them. I message them, can we get would you be open to doing a podcast with us? Can we have a conversation with you around this and such? And a lot of people, they're not interested. They're not ready yet. They feel frightened by this possibility. And then they are not really keen to take it any farther. And then you know also that if they are not very used to having podcasts, then they struggle. They struggle actually then feeling natural, expressing themselves, and the conversation is not going to be flowing anyways. So not everybody who is an interesting candidate is actually the right person to talk to, just because of where they are. If you asked me 6 months ago, I'll be like, no way, thank you, but no thanks. But then you explore and you experience and you grow and you learn. And now it's like, you want me somewhere? Yes, I'm there. Tell me just when. What about you, Andrew and Laurent?
On what you said, I will jump on what Andrew said, which is really true, that even if we have a common subject, even if you are able to speak in front of a camera or in front of an audience, even if I can do it, there is something which is really important, the connection between both of us. But if it doesn't work, it's like for a coaching session, a lot of coaches exist in the world, a lot of clients exist in the world, that sometimes, this coach and this client doesn't match. It can happen. And it's the same with this kind of podcast or live, if there is no correlation, if there is no interaction between us, it won't work, even if we want to talk about the same subject. So that is very important. That is very, very important. But yeah, as I mentioned before, I like to meet the people before to see if there is something in common and if we are able to grow something together, if there is a connection. So yeah, that's my side.
Yeah, sorry to be slightly distracted. My daughter very kindly brought me a green, healthy drink. So I'll get to that offline, don't worry. I agree with you, Rena, as well as Laurent, that the connection is absolutely essential. And having that pre-conversation, offline beforehand, so that you don't have surprises, or you might find, stage fright isn't just on the stage. Stage fright can be in front of the camera. Maybe somebody is just really, really stuck. You might actually, which I have done a little while ago now, is I found out that in fact somebody was struggling with being on camera. I was able to help them out. The first few minutes were a bit clunky, but we got there in the end because they felt, because of the pre-conversation, that I was going to be there for them and I was going to help them along through it. And when they got over the nerves, the butterflies, they were in flow. It's almost like, whoa, how do we stop this? They almost like, it's like, great. They really, and they showed to themselves they could do it. And sometimes that happens, that you are their first gateway into this procedure. But I wouldn't have known that had I not had a chat with them before. So I think it's really important that you make that exploratory call like you do in your coaching, is to find out, is this really going to work? Again, it's a tricky one, because if it's authentic, where it's like, if I can see that even a coach is human, or a potential person, or even a business person, they may be fantastic at running a business, but they're really, really shy as a front person. That doesn't mean they're not a good potential partner for me. It just means we need to identify what we do with each other much more clearly. So if it's a case of that in a podcast, I need to then lead it more, as opposed to just say, okay, here's an open-ended question and let them run, and they're not a speaker. I need to kind of know that beforehand. So it's really important that you just spend a little bit of time without being rigid to lay down the foundation. And it's also, again, is that you do want things to flow. Like you said, Laurent, you can start out with a bit of a script. You're going, okay, this is a framework that we're going to be talking. There's my topic. This is what we're going to run. And as you get into it, they start bringing in their ideas, and it becomes an emergent process. You go, they're the golden nuggets. Because otherwise they're saying the same thing that you could read in a book, or someone else has said 20, 30, 1,000 times. You've heard this before, just said in a different way. But then all of a sudden they, as Annie likes to say, unfurl, and then boom, they bring their magic, they bring their essence, they bring their nuggets. And then you go, that's what we're here for. That's what I wanted to connect with you, that particular thing. But if I didn't know that beforehand, we may not ever get there. And it might take 2 or 3 runs at it, or a couple of sessions. And you're like, by that time, it's moved on. You've lost the moment. So yes, I can't stress enough that it's really good to make that connection. And also it's a point of just in practicality, are they committed to it? Are they going to show up? Are they on holiday? Are they off sailing on a boat somewhere and they can't get a signal? I mean, these things happen. So that's the beauty of this technology, is that you can do that. But at the same time, you also need to gauge that. So it's a part of your practice and management. So I think it's an essential part of it, yes.
Perfect. Perhaps one more thing that I would like to add here, just as a tip. Myself, having been on many podcasts, many Facebook Lives, and also having organized all kinds of events, is if you are the one hosting the Facebook Live, there is a certain responsibility that rests with you. I have been on lives where I felt the person didn't really have questions prepared. And it made my job as a guest much more difficult. You might have heard me say today several times, thank you for sharing, but then I changed the topic and I introduced a new question. And it's just because I'm mindful of time. But then I've been in events where the person would kind of say, oh yeah, interesting what you just said, and then repeat kind of what I said, but then, so what's the next point? Are we going to talk about something else? And then kind of we look at each other. So what's the deal now? What's the next step? And it's challenging because I'm trying to give my best. And I know there is 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. We try to squeeze everything in. But then the host is not doing the job of a host. You are not just there to kind of say, yeah, awesome job, I agree with you. But you're actually there to kind of like take whatever I said, digest perhaps that essence, and try to introduce the next step, the next question, the next topic, and keep moving it along. And also try to bring in that energy in you of excitement, of your own excitement in this topic. Because if you're bored in your topic and you're the host and you are tired, or you are just not feeling energetic about it, then it affects whoever is there, who is your guest. And that's something that I felt sometimes kind of like was killing the whole buzz, around this whole topic. You have to be excited. And best is choose a topic that you're actually excited about. You can talk about it in an exciting manner, because if you don't have a topic that's exciting and you're bored, then what's the point? It's going to affect, of course, you don't have to be like people in the Tony Robbins world where they're excited about everything, they're super, super bubbly, but at least to some extent be interested, curious, excited in what you're sharing. And another thing that I was going to say is that when we meet up with people who will be coming to our live cast, we actually come up with a list of questions with Ildiko. We actually have a document where we start populating questions and we talk about it, and it doesn't even take so much time. Maybe in 10-15 minutes we are done, but we actually send that set of questions to the person that we're going to interview. It is not to make the conversation scripted, but because we want to get somewhere with that conversation, we want to ensure, because we still don't know how this person is actually speaking, how they're sharing, what's their flow. We want to make sure that these are the things that we feel are important for our listeners to know. And these are the questions that we feel based on our understanding of the community that we would like to discuss. And it is very, very helpful to the guests when they know, okay, this is what you want me to focus on. This helps me understand your viewers as well, because many people are very, very new to our community. They don't know exactly what we do, even though we share with them a little bit. And then when we actually have the live, we share the questions with each other in the chat, Ildiko and I. And we actually message during the session, like, take question 3. No, let's do question 7 first. I think this could be the next one. Do you do that or I do that? That's why it seems like so seamless that we don't interrupt each other, and there's kind of like exchange. She's talking, I'm talking, she's asking, I'm asking. But actually there's a whole process behind that works really, really well for us, because we work as a team, maybe not this time, but usually, yeah, we do. But even if you are by yourself, I think having a list of questions, it will help tremendously for you to stay focused and address all the questions that your viewers might ask and might be interesting to them. And I would say that's the biggest advice that I have. No matter what you do, if you can write out some questions, especially if you don't really know perhaps that person that you're speaking to that well, and you don't know, both of you are unsure what the conversation is going to be about, how it's going to flow. This helps it tremendously. What are your thoughts on this?
Go ahead, Laurent, please.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. No, definitely. The idea is we have to keep in mind that we are doing that for an audience, to give them tools, support, help, for them to get more information. And if, to be honest, if it starts to get boring, if it is full of silence because none of the speaker knows what to talk about or what will be the next step or so on, I would not say that we don't want to waste our time, but then people will just move away. So no, totally agree with you, Rina. And the question, to have a list of questions, it's not a script, but it's a support to move on. And then if the question, if during the process, as you mentioned, Andrew, then there is something that we can go deeper and enlarge a bit more, we focus into that, still keeping in mind where we want to go. But there are different ideas can come, and that's the beauty of it. That's why it's marvelous, because it's not a script, pam, 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 pam. It's a conversation, it's an exchange. So we know where we're going to start. We have maybe an idea where I'm going to go, but in the middle, that's the beauty of it. The journey, it's where the magic will happen. And that's everything, which is nice. But it's good to have a safe net with a question. Totally agree with you, Rina.
Excellent. Let's, I don't know if Andrew, you have...
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just adding to that, and just quickly, it's something I interestingly realized I was doing anyway. And then I was reminded when I saw someone else do it, I went, oh yeah, because sometimes we're on autopilot. So we kind of don't, until you see it, you go, oh, but I do that, but I just took it for granted. I just did it automatically. Is the question thing of, you can ask the person, what question would I ask you? In other words, they have to think about their area of expertise in the context of what you want to talk about, what they are able to bring to the conversation. So it goes back to them to take a bit of ownership, which then gets more engagement from them so that they can bring their area of expertise or an area they're willing to talk about, because it's, again, so that helps you gauge where you can go with them, because there's nothing worse where you start talking about where they feel that's kind of my IP, meaning that's my area of secrecy, that's my special sauce that you're now going into, that is my service. I'm a bit concerned that now I'm going to give away my whatever. Some people think like that. So then you will have just an uncomfortable moment in the conversation if you've touched on something because you've surprised them or they don't know. So again, back to the questions and back to the pre-conversation is essential. So yeah, it gets that engagement, I think, if you bring them into, okay, so what are we going to talk about, as opposed to, this is my agenda, because then it's very one way. It's not a two-way street.
And perhaps one of the last questions we have here before we wrap up, any thoughts on pros and cons of Facebook living versus podcasting? It's a good question. Personally, I think Facebook Live is much less time consuming, because if you do podcasts, usually what I've seen is that people put much more effort into, they do the editing and they remove all the pauses and when people need time to think and such, and they create, they try to decide what is the most interesting point made in that conversation, crop out that section and put it in the front so people actually watch it and such. And for me personally, I can't be bothered with any editing. I love this, I love just this fact that we can just go live and it's done. And it's done. And actually, it allows you to focus on what you love doing most. Because if you start editing, this is now 1 hour, 45 minutes. It's going to probably take me 3 hours at least to edit this, if I really go for it. And honestly, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. But some people, they prefer audios, just audios, and having their podcast and such. But there are other people that are okay with being seen. And it really depends. Yeah. So any other views there?
I think you've touched on the key points here, is the idea of flexibility, which then leads because of its versatility. So again, because my laptop signal completely failed me, it happens, but I'm able to come in on my mobile. So I have flexibility and versatility because I can do that. However, it's, again, I think I completely agree with you. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're having a podcast because you're going to have a library of topics that you're going to then, you want to have it slightly kind of clean and polished and so on, even though it has a live element, that's a different kind of format, but it's also different. What is your objective? And that's just, you very, very clear with that. I think your point of not having to edit and being able to just jump in is where the power of the lives do come into it. Is just like, okay, this is when we're going to do it. You just show up and then we're going to switch it on and off we go. And I think that, again, brings a bit more of the authenticity in. The thing about video or audio, if you're somebody who is listening and prefer to listen to audio, you just don't have to look at the screen. You can just turn up the volume and walk around your house and do whatever you do. But if you're the person who doesn't like being on camera, well, for all you coaches out there, that might be your opportunity to help them have a breakthrough. The other opportunity is that the flexibility of basically, people fall out because life happens. And if you are completely set up on having, this is when we have to do the podcast and so on, and this is how it goes, it can be quite tricky. Whereas the flexibility of a live is that if you had to last minute, you could bring someone else in, very quickly, and there wouldn't have to be too much pre-prep, a 10-minute conversation. This is what we're going to cover. If things went wrong, it happens, life gets in the way. So again, that flexibility of being able to do that. So I like Facebook Lives. To go back to a point you made very quickly is that, some people don't like talking to themselves on screen. So as we're doing here on a Facebook Live, you, with a little bit of organization, doesn't take much, is you could reach out to somebody and say, look, we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be an interview type format. Are you up for that? And we're going to talk about this. That would be very, very easy to manage. And then you could have that conversation. You are not having to talk to yourself. You're conversing with someone else. You're not feeling a little bit uneasy yourself, but you're getting your material, your resources, your ideas out there and sharing your message. So for those people who don't like talking to themselves online, find someone to talk to, a best friend or whatever, who you can trust and know, who is going to be able to run with you. And then you can undo these things. And that's where Facebook Lives can also really help. So yeah, I'm really all for it.
Excellent.
I will just add a few points, and you're both totally right with that. The small difference between a podcast, so I would say something recorded, and a live, it's, yeah, when you think about it, on a live, you just jump. You are no safety net. You are live. And it can be frightening. Yes, exactly. When we think about it. When in fact, not necessarily, because is there somebody who's going to shout at you now? It will be exactly the same that if you're on podcast. Because in fact, you're going to read the review after. That will be interesting. But yeah, that's the only difference. But something that you mentioned, Rina, which is very, very true, it's the after work. If you do a podcast, you can do, like I did many times, you record it on the purpose of putting available on a specific date, period, raw as it is, and I like it. But if you start trying to see if you can amend it and make it better, I love it. Jay Shetty would say one time, I does a lot of video, a lot. And he said that my videos are good at 80%. The problem is that if I would like to reach the 100%, what we call the perfection, how long it will take? 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 1 lifetime? We don't know. So just do it. But if there is something that you can be sure on live or on podcast, more you will do it, better you will get. And even with anyone, you're going to do it, because you will be able to have better people joining it with the experience that you're going to have on doing the process.
It's actually almost a very, very effortless endeavor, I would say, because it's so easy. And another thing that I really love about Facebook Lives is that since we're using Zoom, we can actually invite people to join us like we have now. Thank you so much for joining us. And we get actually questions posted in the chat, which makes the conversation even more lively, because it's not just the three of us chatting, but there's actually more people who are also participating in the conversation. And you might be seeing me looking down, watching kind of like in this direction all the time. It's because probably another tip that I have for you, if you have a phone, and then try and see the live as you are having your life. This is to make sure that everything is going well. That's why I keep looking there. Okay, is it going well? Is everything working? And it allows you to see if there's anybody else commenting on Facebook, are people liking it, how many people are actually viewing it. It gives you that instantaneous feedback, which often you don't get if you do a podcast, because usually podcast is kind of like gets recorded in the background, just the 2 of you, 3 of you, and there is no real participation. And then once the baby is ready, then the ready product gets posted. And it's really depends on really how you prefer doing that. And okay, we have one more last question, actually. I understand spamming on Facebook Lives is increasing. Have either of you been spammed? If yes, how did you manage it? I have never been spammed, so I would let the question to the gents. Maybe you have any experiences with that?
I haven't necessarily been spammed really badly. I spammed as in somebody took it as an opportunity to share their opportunity. That would be spam. And basically I just, very quickly, as you said, you have something next to you, such as your phone, you can keep track of that and see what's going on. And I just very, very kindly said, this isn't really the place for doing that. And if it didn't change, then I block them. I mean, that's just how it is. And they may be very nice. They just, unfortunately, maybe they don't really understand the etiquette. Maybe they're not particularly, they're new at the game and they think, oh, someone told them this is what you do. So it could be an innocence. Very often they know they shouldn't. And I think as somebody who does that is obviously not caring about what they're doing. And I wouldn't want them really in that kind of activity anyway. But I'm very civil. I don't get into a thing with them or a ding dong. I just literally just cut it. You just, it's like having a heckler in the crowd. You just don't deal with it. You don't give it oxygen. But yeah, I haven't had anything sinister. That would be unfortunate, obviously, if someone's just trolling and doing stuff because they don't really have anything going on in their life to do that kind of thing. I feel a bit sorry for that. But again, you just manage it very, very quickly and move on. But I haven't really had that major problem.
I know that I never got any spammer on Facebook Live. I got some in my group. I just told them that unfortunately, no, this is part of the rule of the group, and no, I do not let your post go. So I'm still managing that at the moment. But otherwise, no, during a live, I never had this experience yet.
Facebook has become so good at catching those people who are doing that, who are spamming and such, that it's almost guaranteed if somebody requests to join your group and they've been on Facebook for a day, it's almost guaranteed these people are going to spam. And you can even make that test, just to see, okay, person requested to join, they've been on Facebook for a day. And right away, there will be posts somewhere popping up. And the beauty about Facebook is that once you see them spamming, you delete that comment, you block them, and actually everything that they posted in that group gets deleted. You don't need to go hunting for all the comments. You just find one and remove that one and block the person right away. But these days, I never let anybody in who has been on Facebook for just a few days or even a day or just for a few hours. Why are you in my group? I mean, why are you, if you're a legit person, why are you in my group already? And so if you do that, then it's very seldom that anybody is going to be doing that. And if I see somebody trying to post their stuff and I remove it, then just messaging them. Most people, they're very apologetic about it. They really didn't know that, posting self-promotion is only allowed on Mondays. They're new to the group. And once you mention it, then they find the right post and they are then civilized and disciplined and they do it in the right places. Yeah. That's it. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing. I really enjoyed this conversation with you and can't wait to see more of your lives, and all the best for your Facebook groups and for your topics. And thank you for sharing all your wisdom, all your knowledge. And thank you for being here. I really loved learning from you. And thank you also to all our viewers here who've been live and who've been watching us live on Facebook as well. Do give us some feedback and do share with us if there are any particular topics you would like us to cover next. We would love to invite the right people into the conversation with us. And I know Laurent is always also looking for people to interview and to participate in his lives, and Andrew for sure. Feel free to reach out to them. I mean, what I find actually, another thing that is really beautiful about Facebook Lives is that it's a good way of actually establishing partnerships with people. It's helping you understand what other people are doing and learning from them, but also exploring potential future collaborations. And that's also another exciting way of using Facebook Lives for business purposes. Yeah. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. And I'm just going to stop the live stream.